of basically creation. So as we go through the steps of creation, it kind of gives you the steps of all the souls. Okay? So if you notice, the Master of Christ Consciousness, we're on page 190. As we go down the list of it, you see how God is formed, how the soul is formed. Good morning, Lily. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. Thank you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Here you go, guys.
Yeah, Melissa.
You cut your hair. No, right?
Well, I need some trim.
I cut my hair. You see, look.
You didn't cut your hair, did you?
No.
Yeah.
I'm like
really did, but I did not.
Oh, okay.
Mine is instant, and I can I can let go.
Very good. Let's pray real quick.
Okay.
Our Father in Spirit, may your nature become known among men and your rule established on earth according to your heavenly plan. May your design be completed. Give us the substance we need on a daily basis. Continue to look over our transgression as we overlook the transgression of others.
Yeah.
Continue to teach us forgiveness, unconditional love. You don't test us too hard. Strengthen us against the servants of evil. I pray that we offer up and say amen.
Amen.
All right. Any questions, comments, concerns? Any testimonies? Any, hey, Pastor, I need to help create something.
Yeah, we're still working on the 11.5 million.
Yes, it's coming. It's on the way.
It's on the way.
Yes, it's on the way. It's too easy. Way too easy. So you ask yourself, what do I want and why do I want the 11.5? And of course, everybody goes to get out of debt and all these things, but go deeper than just that. Mm-hmm. That's a good satisfaction, but look at a bigger, broad, what you do with it. Right?
Yes.
It's a blessing.
Mm.
Any testimonies? Any by the ways?
Anson is still in the process of looking for his house, so he's still looking.
He's close.
Oh, he's close? Yeah, that's what I think too.
He's close.
Yeah. So I told him just think that it's fun to be seeing what kind of options you have out there. There he is. Hi.
Hello. We were speaking love about you and your new house.
Yay!
I told your mom, I said, he's close. He's almost narrowed it down.
I feel like it's close too. Yes. Today, after this, right on the dot about 11:40, 11:50, I'm going to drive to an open house, which is one of the houses that Mom and I were like, this must be the one.
Yes. I feel it in my spirit.
Yeah, I can feel it because it's something that we've been eyeing, but it's just that we weren't sure. But after the first 7 houses that I looked at, 7 houses, then I was like, I think that's the one. Like hands down, I think that's the one. And whether it becomes or not, all I know is that if I visit there, then I know there are more things that will come into shape, and then we'll see how that turns out from there.
Oh man, I love that. That's how you create, man. That's how you do it. That's too easy. You take that perception right there, everything flows. Because people go, oh, I want this, and then something happens in life, and then all of a sudden it gets kind of distorted, and then they start complaining about it, blah, 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 blah. But you say, hey, this is how I'm going to embrace all of life in this 7 house that I've looked at experience. And then you say, be happy because most people have to look at 30 to 50 houses.
Oh.
And most people give up on the 3rd house.
Yeah. Melissa, how many houses do you show per person until they close?
Well, minimum 3 if you're lucky, but never. 10.
So it's a blessing to only have 7, and not so that's good.
Yeah, 7 is nothing.
Yeah. Any other testimonies?
Huh?
The number 8 will be your lucky number.
Every individual is different, so.
Absolutely. So if there's no other
It has got to something to do with your character.
He's a God. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Some people that listen to the advice of the agent. Some people don't.
Right. Well, Anson is wise. He's already got it.
Yeah. So,
All right. We're going to cover fear this morning. And as we talk about fear, we always try to say, get out of fear, get out of judgment, get out of those two things, and creation becomes easier, life becomes easier, your experiences become easier. But when fear happens, fear cripples the mind. Hey, sis, does that make sense? So as we take you through the steps of creation, from the creation all the way down to the physical body, we're talking about now the fear has taken its final form. And what we're seeing today is a lot of fear. Turn on the news, there's nothing but fear in the news. There's fear in the radio. There's fear everywhere you look. So these are very powerful emotions of influence. And if we're not grounded and connected to God, to yourself, and to one with everything, then it's easy to kind of get sucked into that fear unconsciously. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, question: what is fear? That's our number one question. I want to go through these questions kind of quickly. But what is fear? I want to get everybody's definition of what fear is. What is fear?
Fear will be when you don't know what to do and you don't know who to trust. You don't even trust yourself.
Ooh,
and
nice.
You are unable to move forward.
Right. Okay. That's a great example of fear. What else? Who else has an example of fear? I want to hear everybody. Everybody has a different perception of fear.
Evidence appearing real.
False evidence appearing real. Absolutely. So false evidence appearing real is a perception of the mind. We'll call it self-created, correct? So in other words, that false evidence that you're looking at, you're the creator of it because you're the only one can determine true or false. As you determine true or false, now that changes your perception of fear. Does that make sense? And once you get that perception changed, now you start changing the language from fear. Does that make sense? Everybody agree with that? Yes, no, maybe so?
Yes.
All right. What else? What else is fearful? Do you consider anger part of fear, or is it a separate thing?
Fear has many components, many factors, depending how every individual perceives fear. Some people they see fear as they study with anger, doubt,
Right.
right.
All those things are fear. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are two different emotions, but one leads into the other. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Melissa. My apologies.
Okay, but I think the number one thing is that they are afraid of their reputation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Ooh,
They're afraid that they'll lose respect. So because of this, everybody's reaction to fear is different.
Correct. Absolutely. Any other definitions of fear? Any other?
I feel fear comes when a lot of people are overthinking.
I agree.
I'm one of them. I guess I've been growing up like that. And I've been studying in such a way whereby I guess an engineer, you always have to think of the worst case scenario. Whatever you're doing, you always have to think of the worst case scenario and how you can diminish that percentage of happening to as close as you can to zero. But there will always be at least 0.001% of it happening regardless of what it is. And as I learned recently from my friend who studied psychology, he said, no matter how small that percent is, we will always focus on the negatives.
Wow. That's
Whether
cool.
we like it or not. No matter how successful you feel, if there is a chance of failure, that chance of failure, no matter how small it is, you will always look at that failure instead of the success.
Wow.
And that comes to the overthinking part, because you're like, oh, how do I avoid this? How do I get rid of that? How do I minimize this to 0%, wherever it is? But as we all know, in the rule of life and the rule of financing or the rule of engineering, it's a matter of being able to control your risk, right? And that's where the overthinking comes into play.
I like that. I like that. That is a great, I've never heard that. That is a great example. And that is, and the way you said it makes perfect sense. And to kind of jump into the next question, what is the ego consciousness? And you just explained what that is. It's really, really self-creating a perception and then being afraid of it. Or, as you say, putting that negative anatone on it or that negative energy into it. That 000 point, so small, so insignificant, but people don't realize how quickly that number can shift. Very, very quickly. And we always say this, that we're always influences of one another. So if we're not grounded and certain of, I'm going to stay completely within the 100% range of no fear, I don't care what that percentage is, then I can't even look at it. Does that make sense? So what creates it is really out of the ego. So the ego is, I'm kind of giving you the answers as we go down into the lesson, but the ego is what creates fear. Would everybody agree?
Yes.
Ego, everything comes forth. So that's the egoic consciousness that Anson is talking about. They look at that 0 percent and focus upon that, and then that becomes the highlight. That makes sense? Question number 3. When you are in fear, you forget about who?
God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No other answer to that question, period. Because you cannot serve two masters. You cannot love one and can't do it. So you have to make a decision on greatest who is in me, God, making the decisions with power, right? I'm the one who decides. But if I get into fear, then I forget. Now, who controls me? The ego controls me. Now the archons and aeons get into your nervous system. That's why when you see people get nervous, it's out of fear. You ever see somebody nervous, their hands shake? Their voice gets all cracky. And then they give you every excuse on why they can't do something. And they forget about who they are in God. So now God can't do step 2. Step 2 is impossible when you're in that mindset, because now you're at that 0.0001%. Matter of fact, we can take that percentage even lower than that. Okay? What does fear cause? What does fear cause? And there's a lot of answers to this, but what does fear cause? Your body, in your life, in creation, whatever. Because everybody's going to have a different answer on how it's related. Anson used that 0.1% of what people look at it in terms of negative concerning the job as an engineer and looking at the worst case scenario and not the best case scenario. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Based on that influence, that right there causes an emotional instability. Now, as he said, everybody's overthinking the problem, and now the problem gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and now days become weeks, weeks become months, months become years on that one problem. I'm kind of stretching it out a bit, but you kind of get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The roller coaster effect of one thought connected to another thought is a conjoining thought. So if fear is connected to those thoughts, you're going to get what? More fear of that. And now if people around you are really fearful and afraid of everything, based on that energy Anson is speaking about, everybody jumps on board with that. Because now in the office place, everybody's speaking the same language, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody says, hey, let's look at the positive aspect of it. Let's look at the best case scenario instead of the worst case scenario. But because we're taught in school to look at the worst case scenario and not the best case scenario, it's hard to look at the best. So fear causes a lot of things that hinder people from getting, one, to their next level, two, what they're creating, three, influencing others. Does that make sense? So that's what fear causes. And you can see it pretty much everywhere you go. Would you agree?
Yes.
And as we go into these places, this is not on here, but what can you do to disperse that energy of fear? How can you, one person, influence thousands around you that are in fear? I know that's a big question.
Isn't it the way using unconditional love will
Yeah.
change, will influence the environment and the people
Yes.
in there?
Absolutely. Love never fails. Love conquers all. And when you have that unconditional love and you're the one that's in vibration, you'll start attracting those who want to be where you're at. And now people are wondering why Lily and Sudi are so happy when everything is chaotic around me. How come they're not fearful and they're saying, yay, there's trouble, yoo-hoo! You look insane and people going, what is wrong with you? You mad?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my pastor says, rejoice in trouble. How is that going to help the situation? You know how people think? Because they're going to look at the negative percentage of that and not the best case scenario of, well, you know what, this is very temporary. It's going to happen, and we use this to the extreme. Is it going to be here 5 years from now? Maybe, maybe. You won't be in that same place you are in 5 years. It will be impossible. You won't even have the same clothes. You won't even be in the same mind frame. You see my point? But you add on to that more fear and more and fear and more and fear. Okay? So the body is a representation of what? I'll give you the answer. Ego. The body represents the ego. This is where you feel all the emotions from the body. This is how you can tell if you're possessed. You feel it within your nervous system. You feel it within the body, the physical body. Think about what happens. What are the symptoms when you get fearful? What's one of the symptoms that happens within the physical body when you get into fear?
Butterflies in your stomach.
Oh man, butterflies. Them things.
Yeah, and you won't be able to think straight, right?
Watch this. Let's go deeper. Can't think straight, and all of a sudden now start getting headaches. Headaches turn to migraines.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you go see a doctor, and he say you have cancer in your brain.
And then they pop your pills and chemo, blah 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 blah. Right? So now, so look how this fear is going, right? But look how it affects the physical body. What else does it do? Tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision, yeah.
Tunnel vision. Here's the other biggest indication outside of the nervous system is your body contracts, it condenses, tightens up. You don't ever see anybody who's all loosey-goosey, like, oh no, I love fear. You don't see it. Their whole body's tensed up. They're ready to fight or run. So you see it in the physical body. And if they stay at that place long enough, right? What happens if this keeps going? We'll pass out.
Yeah.
We'll cause other problems within the veins, within the blood, within the circulatory. All these affect the physical body when I'm in fear. And people don't realize how powerful that emotion is because it's part of the ego that represents the body. So you can tell if you're satisfied or not satisfied based on the body. If you're happy, how does your body feel? Very relaxed, flow, joyful, no headaches, no tunnel vision. You can see everybody, you can think clearly now. Right?
Yes.
So now, this is how you weigh whether you are in fear or, we'll say, negative emotions versus positive emotions. That way it covers all the negative ones on that side, that when it affects your body, you say, let me take a minute because now I'm here to learn something. Nobody ever says that. You're there, when that happens, you're there to learn something, to make a choice, make a decision. What do you do in that moment? Do I continue to be fearful or do I face my fear? It's always at that fork in the road that people have to make that important decision. Does that make sense?
So, yes, but a lot of times, if we don't know how to do the proper decision, it is at that junction that people always have the most fear, because they do not know the outcome, whether to go to the right or to go to the left. They do not know the outcome, and the fear becomes a thing that make it even worse, such that even the decision making ability is totally not working.
Absolutely. And that is 100% correct. And I'm going to add on to what you said. That affects everything else around you that you prayed for. Everything that you prayed for or wanted or needed cannot and will not come to you.
But I also have a mentality is that when it comes to making decision, I always think that I will make the best decision I can make, right? The better one I'll choose. And then I'm sure that I'll have the blessing that come along, because I did my best and I made my best decision. That's it.
But look at your attitude, positive or negative.
Yeah.
That is the key ingredient right there. Your attitude, your emotions. Is it positive or is it negative? At that choice right there. Because you chose that way, it leans to the positive side. Because it leans to the positive side, now you work the 5. You asked, help me make a decision. Step 2, all of a sudden, when you get to a place where you're not worried about it, you're not overthinking it, you're not pointing at the problem, you're not continuing to talk about the problem, now step 2 can happen, and now you get in the receive mode, and now the answer comes to you. Now you're able to make the best decision, and whatever the outcome is, you're not concerned about it. Because you just take it as, this is my experience, and there's no such thing as a good decision. If every millionaire took a failure, they would not be millionaires.
Yes. Yes.
And they never look at the failure as a failure. They look at the failure as an opportunity. So in essence, they say what we say, they're rejoicing in their trouble or they're rejoicing in their failure. So when Lily leans to, I want to make a good decision, look at the words she's saying. I want to make the best decision possible, other than, okay, universe, make the decision for me and whatever happens, happens. That's what people really want. People want somebody to make a decision for them. That takes the pressure off of them. So if it's a bad decision, I can blame you. That's the truth. But if I make the decision myself and it's the wrong decision and I don't get the outcome, now guilt is part of the ego conscious, and that guilt, I'll be honest, guilt is the mother of fear. Guilt is the mother of fear. Because people get all guilty based on, I made a wrong decision, instead of learning from that decision. And then they judge themselves very harshly about that decision. That's what guilt does. I woulda, shoulda, coulda. If I wouldn't have did this, if I wouldn't have married her, if I wouldn't have married him, if I wouldn't have did this, if I would have did that. And we hear this all the time, every single day that we leave our homes. We hear it every single day that we turn the TVs on. We hear it every single day from the radios, the internet, all places of social media. You hear these things. These are the representatives of the ego. Okay, this is what the body represents. So it's important to take care of the temple, the body, to make sure it flows and everything flows. Because when we're talking about these energies, that's all they are, is energies. Negative energy, positive energy. That makes sense? So I think we can kind of jump down. Go to page 191. On page 191, it says, so what is the egoic consciousness? We all know what it feels like to be absolutely certain that you are separate and alone, that you must rely on your own thinking process, and that no one beyond, not just the boundary of your body or skin, no one beyond your unique contracted sense of I has connection to who you are whatsoever, and no one cares. And you lament, I'm alone. This is what guilt does. When people make the decisions, they feel isolated. They feel alone. They feel like there's nobody in that present moment that can help them. And this is what the ego conscious does. And at that place, nothing moves. Okay? I am separate. How on earth am I going to make it? When people transition on the other side called death, that's one of the main questions. Or if someone leaves their life or out of a relationship or a loss of money or something that they consider value, it's always, how can I live without that thing? How can I live without that person? You see, I've got to figure out my own way. I've got to figure out how the world works. I've got to make it happen for myself. See the despair, the guilt? Fear has taken its final form. Now there is a complete forgetting of God, of the one spirit, even of the soul. The body represents a level of vibration, still quite intelligent, still very intelligent. It is like a matrix of energy, the very thought of condensation into human form, out of which forms keeps getting created, keeps getting created, keeps getting created. You have done that for yourself an infinite number of times. The body is the representation of the ego. For notice that as you sit in your chair, you're quite certain you are not the wall across from you. As you sit and you are in the chair, your consciousness, your awareness tells you that you're not the reader and the author. And you think, no, not me. I couldn't do that if I wanted. Certainly it makes my brother Yeshua very special, for I am just the blob of dust, this separate mind body sitting in my chair, reading words or hearing the words spoken, which vibrate with certain meaning and create pictures and understanding in my mind. But these are being placed within me, and I'm not that one. In other words, people will say, I'm not worthy. In other words, what we're saying is people make excuses on why I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of receiving blessings into my life. I'm not worthy of receiving $11.5 million. I'm not even worthy of receiving the job. I'm not worthy of the house. This is where that fear comes in, and you feel that fear in that vibration. And they send that out, and the universe answers that fear. Okay? That ego or consciousness that says, I am not the one, I am not pure spirit, I am not pure soul, I am the thing that sits in the chair now. And do you know something? You're absolutely right. You're that. That and so much more. The ego mind is that which creates the separated perception that is only one tiny thin slice of the pie. It creates a delusion, a distortion in the consciousness itself, like a little blip on the radar screen that tells the one watching the screen there's something there. your mind says, I am separate, I am alone. I cannot think with the mind of God. I cannot experience unity consciousness. I cannot be as my brother Yeshua, Buddha, one of the masters. No, not me. I'm too small, I'm too weak. And we hear people not directly say those words, but in a sense, express it vibrationally and use other words to express that feeling. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And yet, all the while, you are that one. By the power of that one, you have the potential to think the thought, I can never be like Yeshua or the masters. I'm really too small, too fragile. In other words, you created it, okay? The whole while, that very thought must use the power of the one. Here's what we're saying. When you can never separate yourself from God, and when you create that thought, you're getting the power from God, and you're going to live out the experience as a free will spirit of God. God is not going to say, no, Lily, don't go down there. No, Melissa, don't do that. He's going to give it to you because you got free will. Okay? So that's why it's important to manage the thoughts. Manage the thoughts, because if you think something, even a little thought, for instance, me and the wife were on Arizona to take my niece back, and we were jokingly about getting a ticket, and then probably 5 minutes later got a ticket, and we laughed about the ticket. Well, I laughed. She was kind of upset, but then she started laughing. And then the police comes up and he hands us the ticket, and I went, well, we're busted. And he just kind of looked like, what? Are you crazy? And in my mind, we broke the law. We cannot point the finger at anybody else other than we were at fault, and we created that thought. Thousands of cars on that freeway, mind you. He's turned the opposite way, but he purposely turned around to come get us. Because we attracted that. And that very simple thought of, ha ha ha, would it be funny if we, and all of a sudden now we're getting pulled over because what if it would be funny? What if we got a ticket? Something simple as that thought. And then 5 minutes later, we're experiencing the reality of that.
That is how fast your creation is.
That's how fast everybody's creation is, but they're not aware of it. Nobody sits and goes or takes accountability of, I did that. I own that. I'm responsible for that. Or I was influenced by that and then created from that perspective. Okay? So the reason why this is all important, it goes back to when we started teaching the way of transformation, which is transforming from one state into another. In other words, you're going from your old state into a new state of beingness, of awareness, of consciousness. In other words, the things you've already known, you're just adding on to understanding of it in terms of knowledge-wise to make it practice. Because people will hear this teaching and go, oh, Pastor, I know that, I hear that. But then when it doesn't work in their life, it's my fault because they didn't practice what was taught. In other words, they heard it, they thought they understood it, but then it didn't work for them, so then they disregard it. When you give people that advice, it's the same exact thing. Does that make sense? Let's jump down to 194. Because you got everybody get the gist of it? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Start at second paragraph. Right now, as you read these very words now, that what you're doing, you are choosing how you think of yourself. How you think of yourself is reflected in the world that you see, in the experience that are manifest within your own particular universe of consciousness. If you knew you were the unlimited one, you would never fear the creation of the golden coins again. Let me say that again. If you knew you were the unlimited one, how many of you know you're unlimited?
Me?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Everybody should have their hands up.
This is the thing, Pastor. We all know that we are unlimited because we are the creator of our own destiny.
Absolutely.
However, we do not know how to use that abilities or that capability.
That's why we're teaching it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people hear it, and then when it doesn't work for them, it's, oh, well, that didn't work. And then it's on to another and on to another, and nothing works for them.
No, it's actually because people don't see it. They do not they think that it doesn't work.
Right. And they want, as you always say, now. We're faster now. We're in the age of instantaneous. Everybody wants it instant. But nobody grows up to instant.
Yeah.
If we can have kids and miss all the terrible twos in the teenage, we would just have the kids and, oh, how pretty, and then all of a sudden set them down, they'd be grown. It doesn't work that way. So we have to learn the process. But the thing is, there are so many levels on that process that you have to learn and experience to get comfortable. So you know what? I've learned this. I can let this go. Now I can step to the next level of my learning, my next level of training, my next level of potential power. But people, watch this. People will see it work one time, and then they'll try to do that same way repeatedly over and over and over. And I said, no, it's not going to work that way. Well, why not, Pastor? It worked this way. Well, today's a new day. Your mentality is different. Everything's different in that day. Everything's different. You still use the same process, but you're in a different place, a different time, a different environment, a different blah, 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 blah. Different from yesterday. Yesterday's gone. So people try to create from what they did yesterday into today because they feel that joy and excitement. And we say, that's the creation part, the excitement and the joy. Doesn't matter what day it is. Enjoy the excitement and the creation of the experience. And then that becomes the mindset. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, I lost myself.
Second paragraph.
Read it for me.
You would never believe that you must live in lack, but you are still, for the most part, clinging to the belief that you are the small little thought of separation called egoic mind, still struggling to find God, not recognizing that it is the very power of God's presence from which you create the perception you hold of yourself.
Everybody understand that?
Yes.
So there you are sitting upon the chair, and you are that one. You are informed. That is, you have created a perception of yourself that includes the experience of being a body-mind, which is separate from all other bodies. And this is what we see when people are in fear. They separate themselves from not only God, from themselves, from people, and from things. So now here's why we say the prayers can't happen, because what have they done? They put up a wall of resistance. Nothing gets in. So if I close everything off, nothing can come into what I'm asking for. That makes sense?
Yes.
That is what the world is. The universe is the attempt to create a reflection that convinces you that the first fearful thought of separation is the truth of who you are. You are using, or have unwittingly been using, your physical universe to constantly reflect to you what must be the truth, that you are separate from all creation. This world is nothing but the reflection of that thought. Yet even here, that one pervades all things, and the realization of yourself as that one is closer than your own breath, simply a distant way. You are closer to God than your breath. That's how close, and we use that to give you an idea of how close God is. You're as close to God as your breath. In other words, you always have that connection. Don't make the illusion of separating yourself. Treat the air like God. I live. I breathe. Without air, you die. Unless you fish, but then fish need air in the water, so you'll need air. So treat the air like God and not make that separation. We use that in terms of a catalyst of your thinking. Okay. Here's the greatest riches not found in any other dimension. The riches of the dramas of separation of seeking, 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 seeking. For example, one who is seeking will say, well, I've read Master of Christ Consciousness, the Pastor Meekins teaches one time, and it didn't seem to work. I'll read it again. Oh, that didn't work. Well, maybe I'll go try this form of meditation. No, that didn't work. Maybe I'll try Buddhism. No, that didn't work. I'll try Christianity. No, that didn't work. I'll try Doug's. That'll do it. I'll be depressed. That'll do it. I'll be angry at the world. That'll do it. I'm adding on to it. But the very energy of seeking is the egoic energy. For only the ego can seek. Your spirit can only extend. There's a huge difference. When you're in pure spirit and you're creating, you're extending yourself. But when you're in fear, you're constricting yourself. You're making yourself very, very, very small. Ego consciousness plays itself out through the form of special relationship. You have a special relationship with your employer. You have a special relationship with your spouse, your lover, your car, your boat, your automobiles, and especially with your money. And the world plays off of your needs for specialness, such as, look at this house. Isn't it gorgeous? Oh, you're going to feel so good. So you think you need to possess a certain house or car or boat or more golden coin. Or you think, if I only had that special person who's in the bed with me that I can wake up and just, they can love me like I want to be loved. As I used to tell the others, when they would ask, where's the man? Where's the man, Pastor? Where's he at? They think that that is going to make them special. I'm going to jump down. And on it goes, the world is a reflection of the belief in the need for special relationship. The search for that is restlessness in the fluids of subtle energies, which are contained within the makeup and illusion of the body. Jump down to the infinite eternal stream of communication that occurs through creation, unobstructed, is lost to your awareness. Yet you are so close, it requires only a thought to shift the momentum in a direction. Lily said it best, when there is a problem, she asked for the best, and I'm not saying everybody always asks that, but when they ask that question, it's always out of fear. Lord, give me an answer, but I'm afraid. Really, have a positive answer, and there's no fear. You see the difference? Big difference. It only requires a shift of your thinking to rest your head upon the pillow and say, I am not just this body. I am that one, pure, unbounded, undefiled. I am in communication with every rock, every tree, and every time frame that has ever been. Pastor, are you crazy? Yes. Absolutely.
It takes a crazy person to have breakthrough.
Absolutely. But scientists have come to this truth, and anybody can Google it. Scientists have come up with the fact, scientifically, that everything in the body contains space and earth. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
So that means the rock in you has a connection, whether you realize it or not. The tree, everything. Even the atoms or in the things that are in the space, they've come to the conclusion that this makes up this being called a body. All this stuff. So you're the stuff that creation is made of. So wouldn't it make sense that if all the stuff in the universe is inside you, you would have power to bring it out of you as the one who created it?
Yes. Yes.
And yes, when you begin that thought, it will seem wholly insane. Like I just said, yes, I'm crazy. Because you have been on the other side of the fence looking at reality from a certain perspective. It fits like a glove upon the hand, but that does not make it right or true. You can't be insane to those who are insane, and that's just the way it is. So what makes sense to you is not going to make sense to the next person.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot live another person's journey. You can only influence that person's journey, and vice versa. So as we teach no fear, find an affirmation, and one of the ones that is in the Christian book that I love so much and is so powerful that my brother said is, for God has not given you the spirit of fear, but a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. And I want you to just let that resonate with you. God, Creator, did not give you the spirit of fear. Fear is a spirit. Anxiety is a spirit. Negative emotion is a spirit. God did not give you the spirit of fear, but power. To do what, Pastor? Eliminate fear. Change my thought to no fear. I used to say, oh, I'm afraid of heights. In reality, I was saying, oh, I'm afraid of falling and hurting myself and ultimately dying. That's what I used to tell myself. My uncle used to take me up because I'm 5'3" in stature. So imagine when I was a little tiny boy, I was probably about knee high to a duck. He used to pick me up and throw me as high as he could. And I would be high. I'd probably be, on my mind, 100 feet in the air because I could see over the house in the backyard. And then I would come all the way down and he would catch me close to the ground. This was my Uncle James, loving to death. But every time he saw me, he thought that was the funniest thing to do, is to throw me up. You know how when you're so afraid that when they throw you up, you try to scream, but nothing comes out until you come back down?
Yeah.
It made me fearful of heights. But then I had to go back and say, you know what? How many times he ever dropped me? No.
No. Mm-hmm.
What was his connection with doing that? He was happy to see me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
Pastor, most kids like to be done that way, you know.
Right, and they hate it. Well, I hated it. I can't speak for all kids. Some kids like it. I didn't like it.
And they all laugh. The kids all laugh and they giggle. Yeah, but you're just different. Yes.
Well, I was 2'11". He's 6'3". So by the time I leave the ground to the earth, I only weigh about 30 pounds.
Yeah.
It put a lot of fear in me.
Yeah.
So for years, I would be scared of going up ladders.
Mm.
In the Navy, one of my jobs was as an IT, and we worked with a lot of satellite. And when I was a low rank, they said, Meekins, you got to go on the mast. I'm not going up there. You got to go up there. We outrank you. I'm not going up there. You're going to take a strike. No, we don't want to take a strike, but get up there. I'm not going up there. We had this whole fight about me going up to do maintenance on my equipment. So finally, I said, okay, I don't want to lose my money. I don't lose my strike. And I get up there, and I'm just so fearful. And it takes me hours to complete a 10-minute job. An hour. It took me an hour just to get up this thing. And then you got to hook yourself on something. So I'm thinking, oh my God, if I take my little safety line and put it on this one, I'm going to fall between here and here. All these thoughts went in my head. And then I freaked out because one of my equipment, I'm so nervous, one of my equipment dropped. 8 stories down. That could be me. So that one incident took me into that place until I finally said, you know what? He meant me no harm. He only did it out of love. He was excited to see me because after that, he didn't do it anymore. It was only upon me seeing him after a long period of time that he would do it. So after a while, I had to kind of rationalize that thinking for myself and say, well, I'm not really fearful of that anymore because he never dropped me. So since he never dropped me, so I had to build up that talk in my head on that incident. Does that make sense? And a lot of people cannot do that. A lot of people don't even want to replay the memory of it. They don't want to do it because it's too painful. Especially if it's something very traumatic, it causes fear. We really don't want to talk about it because it brings more of the emotion that they don't know how to handle. By the practice of what we're teaching in unconditional love, forgiveness, and peace is so important. That way it stabilizes your mind and your consciousness and gets you out of the ego consciousness. That way, when you leave your home, you're not fearful of getting shot or getting raped or getting murdered or getting beat up or getting robbed or somebody robbing your house or stealing your car or all these things. You know what I'm saying? So this is where the only time we'll use this, overemphasize the word, is to get out of fear. Because once you get into fear, you've judged something. And once you've judged it, good or bad, you've separated yourself from it. Once you separate yourself from it, you cannot obtain it.
So this fear thing is actually just a human mind thing?
Yeah. We created fear.
Okay.
False evidence appearing real, as my sister said.
Mm.
We created it. Think about this. Let me ask everybody a serious question. Where did fear come from? If God didn't give you fear, where did fear come from?
It has to be from us. Right?
Yes.
Absolutely, yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So fear is self-created. And because you're God with power and free will to live out that experience, I lived out being fearful of heights. Until now, all of a sudden, I'm jumping out of planes. Woo! No big deal. Get on roller coasters. No big deal. But I had to practice what I'm preaching over the years to get out of that habit that I created from a little boy. That is very difficult. People hold on to things for 20, 30 years after an incident, and that person or the incident is long gone.
Mm.
And they will hold that.
Mm.
We're not saying that it's not important, but at some point in time, I had to let it go so I could be free.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't know how to like Melissa said, some people don't know how to let it go. So they box it in, tuck it away, stick it in a little box, and stick it way back in their consciousness, not realizing that thing is present within the body. And it's always present, even though they try to hide it, it still manifests in such a big way because it affects every decision they make.
Mm. But worst case scenario, like Anson say, is that some people even keep that fear or their thought until even their next life.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Here's a great, and I think we explained it in the last lesson. When the soul leaves the body, you can transfer ignorance into that reality.
Yeah.
Once you leave the physical body,
Mm-hmm.
you won't stay there long, but you will experience that when you leave. This is why people who have transitioned, as some people say before their time, which is no thing, you see their spirits passing or that energy passing. Some people call them ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel that energy or that resonance in that place where that person once was that had a traumatic experience of fear dying.
Mm-hmm.
You feel that energy still resonant because of that being and that presence.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when you go in and you see the priests and the pastors and the religious or spiritual people, they bless the house to get the spirits free.
Yeah.
But people look at it, oh, that's just TV superstitions. That's not real. We go, no, that's very real. Because the way you transition out, you carry that with you. So we say, exit your way out. Yes, I'm out of here. Good job. I've completed my mission. It's done, man. Going on to do something next. But if you don't, you're coming back here.
No.
If you don't get this right here, you're coming back.
No.
You're coming back until you learn that lesson over and over and over.
Yeah.
So it's easier to not take that energy with you and just say, you know what? I am the creator of every experience, good or bad, and I own it. But now I have the power and the decision to change my thought in one moment. That's why when we first started teaching, the biggest thing we pushed was, is that a satisfying thought?
Mm-hmm.
And we encourage y'all to influence others to have that same thinking. The reason why, it's an easy word. People can receive that word easier because they know what to them is satisfying and not fearful. But once you ask them, hey, is that a satisfying thought? Now they begin to think, well, no, it's not a satisfying thought, but I don't know how to change this thought. Well, let's think of, then you can help them influence changing the thought, because now you've put them on a path of trying to reconstruct their thinking to get rid of the ego of fear. Satisfied, not satisfied. They start talking about things that are not satisfying, help them change their story. Well, Pastor, I'm lying. No, you're changing the story the way you want it to be. You're already told a lie to get yourself in that position. So stop telling that same lie that you're in a position of.
That is something that the Western people would say is called recreate the life story that you want.
Absolutely. What do you think affirmations do?
I think affirmations is just giving yourself the confidence to build it up in you.
Reconstruct your beingness. You're affirming your beingness. You're becoming what you're affirming. You're reconstructing your beingness.
So in that case, for some people, when they're at home, there are people who is telling you you're stupid, and then so you're gonna wake up affirming, yeah, I'm stupid.
Only if you receive that.
Most people would.
Yeah. But when people tell me that, they don't know me. And I bless them. I'm glad they are so opinionated of me. I'm glad I'm the forethought of them. I must be so important to them. I'm glad I'm always with them. You see how they changed that conversation? For myself and not for them, because we can't change people and we can't change the world. But I can change my perception of, just because you call me that don't mean I own that or I am that. And now the truth of the matter is, because you judge me, now you're the one in fear and you're the one separating yourself from me. So now who has the problem, me or you? Ultimately, what I do, majority of the time, really don't affect you. But people want to include themselves in your business to make an opinion to call you stupid based on the decision that you made and lived out and shared with them for help. And instead of getting help, you get ridiculed. And now people take that to bed. Oh, I must be stupid, or I must be, or I really don't like that person now because they insulted me.
Yes.
Now I don't like you. Now you've drawn the line and I've drawn my line, and now the line has been drawn. Nobody crosses the line. Now no communication, no nothing. Now the web is broken. Now we've dispersed bad energies that are chaotic. That affects the environment, that affects the culture, that affects the relationship, that affects the money, that affects everything. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Questions, comments, concerns before we close? All good? All right, let's pray out. Heavenly Father, once again, we just thank you. We love you. We adore you. We thank you for just teaching us your infinite divine wisdom with unconditional love, forgiveness, and peace. We pray as we go forward in this week, you continue to use us for signs, wonders, and miracles as God, as we speak and decree things that we are in need of. And we thank you for those that are blessed. We pray for those that are sick amongst us, that you heal their bodies. Bless over those who are lost loved ones, that you comfort their hearts in a time of mourning. We pray for those who are struggling with addictions and fear. We pray that you open their eyes and give them enlightenment and touch them with unconditional love themselves. We pray for those in our high and low governments, wherever we are, that they continue to seek your divine wisdom for answers and guidance to lead us into the direction of peace. We thank you for the world and all that it needs. We give you the glory, the honor, and the praise. Amen, amen, and amen.
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 All right. Love you all, and you have a blessed week.
Yes.
Thank
very
you.
much.
You too, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.